I see peoplehood as a tactic. It's a tactic meant to bring what the unaffiliated ones, the people that we cannot include in the core Jewish identity. But I think we should see peoplehood as meant only for them, and not for the people who has a strong Jewish identity, because if we adapt it to people who have strong Jewish identity, then we lose them as well.
What is Jewish identity? What is strong Jewish identity? I drive on Shabbat, and I have do I have a strong Jewish identity?
We can go on with that for weeks and weeks, but you know what? If someone has a strong Jewish identity, I believe he knows that, and there's no question about it. It's not something that you can define here.
Okay.
Maybe closing comments, and then we'll...
Yeah, I think if you can refer by your closing comments to what has been said here, it would be great for everybody.
I think that to try and define Judaism in solely religious terms is a narrow, unsatisfactory definition. I'm responding to your comment.
You're doing some Jewish thing behind the wall.
Yes. We're not, peoplehood is not to replace anything. It's to, when I do my introductory, I say to be part of the Jewish civilization means that you have a relationship in Torah Israel, Am Israel, Be'eretz Israel. Those are the three core pillars. If you take one of them out of the equation, in my humble opinion, it's not going to be sustained, it's not going to continue, and it can't really seriously be explained, and there's a lecture that comes with each one of those points. We live in a postmodern era where actually many religious people are satisfied with having a relationship with the Almighty, and religious people do not care about the Jewish collective and the Jewish people. And I would refer you to Rav Kook if you want to get a little more in terms of why peoplehood plays a very important, crucial factor in terms of Jewish identity. And there is a sense that we're losing that strength. There is a sense that Israelis, I really have a problem with it, and it's used frequently that referring to us as a tribe is for me a very difficult definition. But there are many people from the Israeli tribe who do not give who are not fully concerned.
Turn off the webcam.
Please. With the Jewish collective, and I think that Israel is the state of the Jews that was created by Jews long before Israelis existed. It's a project of the Jewish people. The Jewish people mobilized its people. Some came here, some went other places. And I think that for me, the responsibility for that collective is my emunah. I'm almost religious in it, even though I'm not a religious person. I don't understand what was the stronger Jew or weaker Jew. Those are foreign terms for me. As somebody who is fully inclusive to whoever wants to be part of our collective. That's the broadest definition that I can think of. Lots of other questions that definitely call for another meeting, but some of them took us back to the beginning. If this is seen as sheerly as a tactic or a strategy, then maybe that's my answer to you. You can come into the notion of importance, as I do. I never actually spoke about it, but out of a sense of responsibility for past generations, for future generations, for the current generation. But if at the end of the day we want to have a shlichut, we want to have a ye'ud as a collective, then it's not for me it's not a holy thing. I mean, if it's perceived solely from a practical methodology of sustaining some collective for the sake of sustaining that collective, actually it's a very Israeli approach. Not good enough for me. In that sense, Moti and I definitely think that if this will not lead to the fifth part of his definition, to really figuring out what is our shlichut as a collective in this world, and I'm not sure that it's that important a cause.
So maybe I was supposed to do this at the beginning, which I'm going to sort of go back to where we started. And the first question was, in a way, defining peoplehood, and I didn't really answer that question. And I think that I want to try to do that as a closing comment now that, in response to the questions by Eliezer and Adam and Yogev, and all these questions I think relate to this. Because what's sort of been crystallizing for me is something that I've believed, but maybe not said so strongly, which is I don't think peoplehood is fluffy. I don't think it's a way to say, I'm a Jew, you're a Jew, let's all be people together, and this is peoplehood. But I think that picking up on something that Ariel said, which is that this is Jews by choice. If we're not looking at Jews and members of a people necessarily as people who were born Jewish or who describe themselves as Jewish just because that's what they think their, ethnicity or race or whatever is. But I'm talking about people who want to ascribe to be part of a Jewish people. The question is, what does that mean? And how does that also include Judaism as a religion and what that means? And are we opening this up because we're not okay or we don't believe that the previous definitions of Judaism are still relevant? And I think the answer to that is no, that's not what it's about. For me, I see it as Judaism began as a sort of faith, community, and people. And way back when, it was in religious terms. And there is a shared text, the text of the Bible. There's shared traditions. There's shared traditions that have developed over time. There are symbols, there are days, there are what any kind of tradition and people have. You have symbols, you have days, you have holidays, you have ideas, you have values. And those all, I think, started together as what was then only pretty much a faith community and a religion. But from there and over time, there's been the development of Jewish culture that would be sort of, you can't talk about what Jewish culture means without looking back at the very beginning, without looking at the text, without looking at the original traditions. Culture was building on perhaps religious symbols and seeing them in a different way. Judaism as sort of restoring the nation, Israel. Israel is not, you can't look at Israel without looking at a text, without looking at what Jews shared from the very beginning. And on the basis of all of this, I would say that I don't care if someone is doing something sort of because he or she believes that it has religious value because God says this is what you should do, and if you don't do this, you'll get punished. I don't care if it's like that, or I don't care if it's saying Judaism needs to be meaningful to me. And what is Judaism? Judaism is the collection of the texts, the traditions, the symbols, the culture that draws on that. Israel, and this I would say Israel is, and as the only sort of American-born on the panel, I would say, and maybe I don't represent all of American Jewry in what I'm saying, but for me, Israel is a central part of what it means to be a Jew and the center of the Jewish people, for sure. It's not to say that all Jews have to and must live in Israel, but for a Jew, the centrality of Israel to the Jewish people is critical. So what does Jewish peoplehood mean? It means, finding different expressions, perhaps, whether they be religious or not religious or cultural, but that they draw on the same history, the same traditions, the same text. So it's not that you wake up in the morning and you say, today Judaism means this to me, and tomorrow Judaism means this. It has to, relate, and creativity, great, and, differences, wonderful, diversity, excellent. But at the end of the day, if you don't have those symbols and those values and Israel, and if you don't have that, then it becomes fluffy. And if you have that, it's not fluffy anymore, but I think that it provides for a sort of more inclusive Jewish peoplehood and the expressions therein, but that draw on the very things that held us together at the very beginning. Okay.
Yogev, if I will start with this one. If people is a tactic, let's talk about what is the strategy.
The strategy is Jewish identity, strong Jewish identity.
Okay, but